The voice tore through the silent morning like thunder. Alexander Gray, the ruthless billionaire everyone feared, stood frozen in disbelief, staring at the sight before him. His maid, Grace, the quiet, polite woman who never looked him in the eye, was on her knees in the garden chewing grass. Yes, grass. Wet, dirty blades of grass from the soil she'd just been pulling out with trembling hands. For a second, he thought maybe he was hallucinating. Maybe the stress, the lack of sleep, the constant board meetings had finally made him lose his mind. But then, she looked up and the expression on her face, terror, guilt, shame, told him it was all real. He marched toward her, the crunch of his designer shoes echoing on the stone path. "Grace!" He barked. "Have you lost your damn mind? What is this?" She froze. Her lips trembled. She didn't move. The wind carried the scent of wet soil and desperation, and then she whispered, barely audible, but enough to cut straight through him. "I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. You're out here eating grass. For God's sake, explain yourself." Tears filled her eyes. She swallowed hard, her voice breaking. I haven't eaten in 3 days, sir. My little boy, he's sick. I sent all my money home for his medicine. I didn't want to steal, so..." She glanced down at the handful of grass in her palm. "So I tried to trick my stomach into thinking it had food. Silence. A cold." Suffocating silence fell between them. Alexander just stood there, this man who owned private jets, luxury cars, half a city block, suddenly speechless in front of a starving woman kneeling in the dirt of his own garden. His throat went dry. His chest felt heavy. He'd seen hunger on TV and documentaries, something distant, abstract, but this was real. It was right here, on his property, without a word. He took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Then he bent down, the billionaire, the man who never lowered his head for anyone, and said softly, "Grace, get up." She shook her head. "Please, sir, don't fire me. I didn't mean..." "I said, get up." He interrupted, voice trembling. He helped her to her feet. Her hands were cold. Her legs shook. He guided her inside, past the marble halls and golden chandeliers, all the symbols of his success that suddenly felt disgustingly hollow. He called his chef. "Bring food." He said, "Sir, for breakfast. You usually have not for me." For her, now, Grace sat at the edge of the kitchen stool, still trembling, watching the plates come out. Steaming eggs, toast, fresh fruit, soup. When the first spoon touched her lips, tears streamed down her face, and that broke him. He turned away, but he couldn't hide it. His jaw clenched. His eyes burned. How could he, a man worth billions, have never noticed the suffering of someone under his roof? After she finished eating, he sat across from her. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" he asked quietly. She looked down. "Because people like me don't matter, sir. We clean. We serve. We survive quietly." Her words hit harder than any insult ever could. That night, Alexander didn't sleep. He sat by his window, staring at the lights of his city, the empire he built on endless ambition, and for the first time, he hated what he saw. The next morning, the entire mansion was summoned. Every maid, every gardener, every driver, they all stood there, terrified. And then Alexander did something no one expected. He stepped down from the staircase, his tone softer than anyone had ever heard. "Yesterday, I learned something about myself," he began. "I learned that I've become rich in money, but poor in heart." He raised his eyes. "From this day forward, every employee will receive triple pay, full health care, family support, and not one person in this house will ever go hungry again." The room was silent until Grace broke down crying. He walked toward her and said, "And as for you, Grace, your son will get the treatment he needs. No more grass, ever." She fell to her knees again, but this time, out of gratitude, and he stopped her. "No," he said gently, bending down beside her. "Don't kneel. Stand tall. You're the reason I remembered what it means to be human. Months later, things change. The mansion that was once cold and silent was now alive, laughter in the halls. Music in the garden, smiles everywhere. Alexander no longer dined alone. He ate with his staff, the people he'd once ignored, Grace's. Sun recovered fully, and whenever Alexander looked at her, walking through the same garden where she'd once eaten grass, he remembered the moment that saved him, the moment that turned the billionaire into a man, because sometimes it takes witnessing someone's lowest moment to realize how far you've fallen yourself, and that's when true wealth begins.